Hey guys, so now we're going to be going over the respiratory system in our fetal pig. Okay, so your respiratory system, you should have already gone over with the guided notes and matching and quiz in assignment 1. And then we'll be here in assignment 2, okay? So respiratory system is an organ system that helps transport gases, okay? So it removes carbon dioxide from the blood and replaces it with oxygen. So those are the two main gases that the respiratory system transports, okay? There's tons of branching parts of the respiratory system, okay? And we're going to kind of break all of that down. So during inspiration, which is when you inhale, fresh air enters the respiratory system through your nostrils as a human. In the fetal pig, they are called nares. Okay, so those nose holes are called nares. And then you can also bring an inhale through the oral cavity, which is your mouth, to your pharynx. Okay, air travels through the trachea. Next, then from the trachea to the bronchi and bronchioles, and then to the alveoli. And during expiration, the air goes in the opposite direction. Okay, so we're going to kind of go through step by step where the air is going to go through in the pig. So first, the air will go through the paired nares or the oral cavity. Okay, so now it's going to go into the trachea. Okay. So in the picture, you can see that the esophagus runs on the left side, and then on the right side there where the orange arrow is, that is going to be the trachea, which is your windpipe. Okay, so your upper respiratory tract includes your nares and your mouth, and the lower respiratory tract is your larynx, which is your voice box. Okay, the trachea, which is your windpipe, and the bronchi and bronchioles, which branch into your lungs. Okay. Now the trachea is a tube, okay, and it has these rings inside of it called a cartilaginous ring, okay? So it's made of cartilage, not bone or anything like that. It's made of cartilage, the same stuff that your nose and ears are made out of, okay, to help keep the airway open, okay? And that air goes directly into the lungs. So now we're going to go into the lungs. So here, it's kind of a messy look, right? Okay, but we'll eventually see the lungs taken out. But you can see the lungs highlighted in that dashed yellow outline, and then in the middle is your heart, okay? Because your lungs fit on both sides of your heart, okay? The way that they have made the lungs a little bit more visible is that they inflated them with air here, okay? Because you have to realize that when you're not breathing in, your lungs aren't filled, okay? So they're more deflated. Think of like a balloon. But when you breathe in, your lungs kind of blow up to twice their size, which is why when you take a deep breath in, your chest gets bigger and everything like that. That's because you physically have your lungs blowing up with air. Okay, so let's look at them when they're removed. So here you can see the trachea, okay, you see kind of how it has that very rigid and formed shape because of the cartilaginous rings, okay. So here at the trachea, we have our two lungs. These are the fetal pig's lungs. Your lungs are much, much larger. Now, if you were a smoker or anything like that, your lungs would actually be black and they would barely be able to inflate. So it doesn't matter if you're smoking cigarettes or weed or anything like that, guys, your lungs will turn black and they will not inflate to the full capacity, okay? So the trachea leads into what is called your bronchi, okay? So those are the two beginning branches that feed directly into your lungs, okay? So you can also see the aortic arch is right here. Okay, so this is your aorta kind of removed from the heart, which would be, in the middle. So you can see how large it actually is. So now we're going to actually look inside the lungs to see the next step process. Okay, so this is kind of a cross section, which means they cut it across. Okay, so you can see your bronchi in the red circles. Okay, now your or the yellow circle is your bronchi. The red circles is where the bronchi end up splitting and branching into the bronchioles. Okay, so the bronchioles are even more branches. Think of like trees, how you have a main branch, which is your bronchi, and then you have the little mini branches or twigs that kind of go off of that. Those are your bronchioles. And then you're going to think of your alveoli, which is the little air sacs where the oxygen and carbon dioxide actually exchange. Think of those as like your leaves on the tree. Okay, so here we can see the top of the trachea with the yellow arrow, okay? And then you can see where it starts branching into in that yellow circle. That's going to be your bronchi, okay? Your primary bronchus, which is the main part of the branching that comes from the trachea. And then you have your secondary bronchi, which are turning into your bronchioles, okay, that are indicated with the black arrows. Okay, so you can see that it continues to go in to deeper in the lungs. So once you get to the bronchi and then your bronchioles, you're then going to go into what's it called? The alveoli, which are your air sacs, where the gas exchange actually occurs. Okay, so now we're going to look at the diaphragm. So your diaphragm is this very, very, very thin muscle that basically sits underneath your lungs. So you have your lungs and then your heart, and underneath that is kind of like, think of like a little plate, okay, for a very thin muscle called your diaphragm. Okay, it separates your thoracic, which is your chest cavity, from your abdominal cavity. So the diaphragm is what helps the rib cage expand. Okay, so what it does is basically helps push your rib cage open, so that way your thoracic cavity can have enough room to expand when you breathe in or inhale. So then when you exhale, called expiration, the diaphragm relaxes, okay, and reduces the amount of space or volume in the thoracic cavity, so that way you can push the air out, okay? And that's pretty much it for our respiratory system. So if you have any questions or need any help understanding anything, let me know. But after this, you can go and take your respiratory system dissection quiz and then get into the nervous system. Bye.